if you're going to be getting up and presenting and talking to people, it's got to be something that you love doing or you enjoy doing or is genuine. Otherwise, why bother? Because there's going to be a million other people chasing up your backside doing it better than you do.
Jason Shon Bennett gives people what could be argued as the greatest gift, their health. Sick from a young age, Jason used himself as a human guinea pig to experiment his way to amazing health. He now runs the Feel Alive plan, where he teaches people everything he's learnt along the way. Travelling the country running health seminars, I caught up with Jason for an early morning chat the day after his Invercargill seminar.
It totally happened organically by accident. It wasn't part of the plan, as it were. But it's a program where we actually teach people how to look after themselves and eat well, and how to get well and how to stay well. So it's a process where we go, look, let's have a look at what you're eating and how your life is and what your health conditions are and problems are. And then working alongside your doctor or a naturopath or whatever else you've got, we say, look, what we'll do is we'll help you with the food side, because that's what we're really good at. So we'll go, right, you tell me what you're eating every day, and you give me what we call a reality check sheet, and you fill in what you're doing and how many bowel motions you have and what you eat and what time you eat to bed and all those things. And then each month I get that back and I check out how well you've done against your goals, which we would have already set as well. And then we work through with you for a year to get you well. And we just have unbelievable miracle results. People getting off all their heart medications, where people, curing their asthma like I did. Skin problems, of course, gone. Weight loss, everyone loses 10 kilos plus. It's just standard procedure. When you start eating well, the weight drops off. So, we have really good results in those areas. And it's great. We work alongside. We've got doctors in the program, pharmacists, we've got dietitians, naturopaths. So it's a really seems to be quite a unique thing, because I give people education every day. I give them the education and educate them on why they should be eating well and what happens with food and how it impacts on the body. And then my wife Tracy sends them recipes. So you get the double aspect of, this is what you do to get well, and this is how you eat. So that's kind of the program. And I could go on and on about it, but it's a really unique thing, and it seems to work amazing results with most people.
Yeah. And you also do speaking engagements. So how often would you do them, and how exactly do they come about?
Well, I do them all over the country, and they kind of come in waves. So at the moment, obviously we're down south here, and we've done this week Nelson and Christchurch and Invercargill, and we're doing Blenheim tomorrow. And generally what happens is, in an area, someone will ring us or email us and say, look, I saw you speak somewhere else. Like for instance in Nelson, we came back to New Nelson this week, and the man John there is a chiropractor in Nelson, and he'd come to see me in Blenheim. He drove over to Blenheim to see me about, I think it was probably March. I did a seminar there, and he came and saw us there, and he was so blown away. He said, this is exactly what I want people in Nelson to see. Can you come to Nelson? And I said, well, look, I'm not planning to. And he said, well, look, I will guarantee you 200 people in Nelson. I'll sell a whole place out if you can come. And I said, great. And so we started talking and that, and what do you know, he sold out this whole venue in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks. And so then we came down, and we knew we were coming to Invercargill, so we booked the Nelson the night before. And so what generally happens is word of mouth is what's kind of caught us by surprise, is people, like right here in Invercargill, Brian organised the whole thing, and we had 257 people last night. So it's amazing, the word of mouth. And because what we're doing is very genuine, it really is about, look, let's teach you how to get well, and we have these amazing results. People get those results in their community, and then they want to tell people. So literally, and other people say to them, look, you look amazing, you're so full of energy, what have you done? So they go, well, I did this thing with this guy and da-da-da, and next minute they say, well, look, can he come down? And they say, well, if we tell some people, yes. And so we do communicating with our database as well. So we've got a database that's growing all the time. So we tell them also about what's going on. So people in Invercargill will have found out also through our database emails. But predominantly it's word of mouth, it just grows. And what happened here was literally, Brian said, you've got to come back, I want you to talk to a lot of people, and so we did, and here we are.
And you talked about this kind of happening by accident, like it was kind of almost organic how it came about.
Yeah.
Can you just take us back to the beginning and tell us how you got to this point?
Okay, well, how it started out was, because I was so sick when I was younger, that's what started the whole process, was that I had asthma and hay fever and allergies, and I was very unwell as a child, and that grew as I was adult. I remained sick, and I was uncurable. There was nothing that could be done. The doctor said, keep taking the drugs, we can't help you, So I ended up studying food and learning about food, and then over about 4 years I cured myself. So what happened was, over the period of the last 20 years since that happened, I'm in my mid-40s now, and that was in my mid-20s. Over the period of time since then, people have consistently come to me and said, what did you do to get well? How did you get your skin from pimply to nice skin, and how did you get rid of your asthma and all these things, they keep saying. And so I said, okay, well, I might start writing a book one day. And then I was in Australia in 2006, I was in Australia. And there was a guy there who I was working with, and he rang me up when I got back to New Zealand, and he said, look, I want to talk to you, not about business, not about anything else. You have to write a book. He said, you have to tell the story. And I hadn't really kind of thought about it. It was just this nice idea one day, procrastination,
Always one day.
One day, exactly. And then you wake up and you're dead. Oh, missed out, So it was really, he pushed me and he got on the phone to me and he would not let up. It's like a 30-minute phone call from Australia, and he said, you have to write now. Promise me you start writing. So he actually pushed me into it, and, kudos to him. So I started writing in 2006. I started pouring out what had happened to me and what I went through and what I learned and the research, and it ended up becoming this kind of thesaurus, university-type document. And so I sent it to a few doctors, and they read it, and a few people read it, and they said, this is amazing information, but it's way too technical. So they said, look, you need to put some of you into it. You need to make it more human so we can get your story.
Down.
Yeah, make it simpler for people, make it easier to understand. And this was doctors saying this, so it was really very technical. So I went through a process of every year of kind of rewriting it and changing it and tweaking. It's now become 4 books. One of them's a recipe book. The first book is basically my story and the bowels and digestion and fasting and prebiotics and all these different things that work together to get you well. So the first book has become a lot more slimline and easier to read and things. And as I've been finishing that book, what's happened is over the last few years, I've been doing a lot of public seminars around Auckland and around the place. And one of them was a charity seminar we did for our local school. So this was a big school, and they wanted to raise some money, and we said, look, I'll come along, do a talk. And so they sold tickets at $15 a head, and they filled the whole venue. And we raised, $4,000 or so, and paid for a kindergarten to be built, and it was wonderful. Right? It was a really nice thing in the community. After that, I got hounded. So all the parents who saw me at school would say, can you teach me this stuff? And I want to do this now. And I'd say to them, well, I got a book coming out one day. And they'd say, no, I want to learn now. Now,
Can't wait for the book.
Can't wait for the book, And so my wife said to me one day, she woke up and said, you know what? Why don't you actually start teaching people now?
Yeah.
And I said, well, look, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a naturopath. I'm not a nutritionist. And she goes, yeah, but honey, you already have the credibility. People want to know, because you walk the talk.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of nutritionists that don't walk the talk, and doctors that don't walk the talk, and pharmacists. And I now realise I work with so many professionals in the area that are much more learned than I am, but they don't walk the talk.
Yeah.
They don't eat well. They don't look after themselves. They don't have a routine. They don't exercise, and they're sick. So I have a lot of people that I work with who are very, very well trained professionally and know a lot more than I do, but they actually don't have a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
So what I do is I work with them on that, and that's kind of what happened. Was we started working with this small group from school. It was about 14 people, and we were working around our kitchen table, and we'd be talking once a month, and that kind of, I started making notes, and then the next year we did our first kind of professional one, and it was all part-time because we were both working full-time, and we'd just do it part-time in the evenings, and I'd be writing a book in the evening, and I'd be putting the plan together, writing emails, and it was full on.
Where did you find the energy to do that?
Well, I'm lucky in that sense that I have a lot of energy because I eat really well, so that's good, and I look after myself, so I get up early in the morning and I exercise, and then I'm ready, so in that sense I got all my energy back through getting healthy.
Yeah. Was it also though that it was something you were just so passionate about, so you didn't mind doing it outside of work hours? Yeah, that's a big part of it, absolutely. I loved it, and I'm really passionate, and I never really expected it. It was something we were doing to help the community, and then it became something we were doing with people, and then people said, look, we want to pay you, so we started doing bigger groups, and then before you knew it, like mid last year, we're actually going to have to leave our full-time work and get on with this. And it's exploded since then. We've got groups starting every month now, and we've got people around the world. I've got a doctor in Houston doing it that wants me to go to America and do some seminars. Wow.
We've had interest from China. We've got people in the UK doing it, right across Australia, right through New Zealand. So it's wonderful because it really is a unique organic thing that did come out of a genuine need in the community, and it did come out of me being passionate about it and me curing all my illness. So it was all this kind of organic thing that happened, and I mean, we pinch ourselves. I get up most mornings and I say, I cannot believe, we've got this company that exists nowhere in this thing called the internet, which is this virtual nothingness,
Yeah.
And here we are, traveling around doing this kind of talk, and people love it, we get these hundreds of people. We sell out venues and they come along, and you literally see lives change in front of you. It's amazing. So
cool.
I feel very, very lucky.
Yeah, it must be so fulfilling as well because, I mean, they say it all the time, if you don't have your health, what do you have? So it's just one of the most important things in life that you're teaching people.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And if you don't have your health, I mean, I talked last night in the seminar, you might remember, we talked about the 7 most important things to people. Parenting, mate retention, social status, all those things. They're all impacted by your health, and people don't recognise it enough, and they don't realise and how much energy you've got, and whether you're actually spending most of your time talking about your rheumatoid arthritis and talking about your illness and your medications and booking to see the doctor and what medications and how can I do this. And it dominates your life. And I work with so many people in their 50s and 60s, their whole life is dominated by this medication and disease conversation. And it's boring for a start, right? But I don't mean boring from my perspective, I mean for them. It's boring for these people. They don't want that. What they want is to feel good. They want a good life. They want a long, healthy life to see their grandkids grow up. And so you have this real domination, and it's so normal and accepted. So many people know other people who just talk about that all the time instead of actually having a life.
It's funny, hey? It's like, it's okay to be pre-ill, as you talk about it, and on lots of medications. It's just kind of like a given these days.
Well, it's just so accepted, isn't it?
Yeah.
And because it's so common, and because we've got this diabetes rates and obesity and heart disease and cancer and osteoporosis and asthma and arthritis and all this awful sickness. And most of it is preventable. If you actually step back from the sickness, most of it you can annihilate. I mean, arteriosclerosis we know how to cure. High blood pressure we know how to cure. They're the biggest causes of heart disease, which kills more Kiwis than anything. And yet, simple dietary changes wipe it out, So, I mean, lung cancer, we can cure 85% of lung cancer. You know how? By not smoking. I mean, it's that
so
easy.
Simple.
It is, it really is. So, yeah, it's a wonderful thing to be part of because it literally is changing people's lives, and it's magic, And it's just diet and lifestyle.
Yeah. If you could go back to the beginning, what do you wish someone had told you before you started all this whole journey?
Oh, the whole journey with the business, do you mean?
Yeah, with the business.
I could go back to the beginning. Wow. And boy, that's a good question.
Yeah. It's in the early days at the moment.
Yeah, it is. We're just beginning, literally. We are just at the very birthing process, of the business. What could, it's probably, goodness me, we've planned really well, so the planning's been good. I guess it's probably that your time, I think maybe the best advice would be really put your time into what's important.
Yeah.
Don't overcommit yourself. Like we've found sometimes we've had too much going on, and because there's only 2.5 of us, there's me, my wife and our assistant Nikki, there's only the 2.5 of us, our time is the most precious thing, so I guess probably the best advice would be really sit down and really think out what you can and can't commit to and what you can and can't do. Make it very clear in your planning because we've got great plans and things are going much faster than we planned. But if someone had told me that a year ago, I probably would be more effective, had been more effective in those early days at using my time, I think.
Yeah.
It's probably about time management.
Yeah. Why do you think that you've been successful to this point?
I think, I think probably number one, it's genuine.
Yeah.
I think number one is that people have come to us. Like this is not something we went out to sell. It's something that I was doing, and we just had so many people say, look, I want your level of health. I want to know what you did, and I want to eat like you do. How do I do that? Can you teach me? So it was answering a need with people. People were coming to us saying, can you do this?
Yeah.
And then we answered it. So I guess number one would be that we're generally answering a need. And number two, I think that we're offering something that's really unique, like a 12-month program, which is what I believe it takes to get well. I believe it takes 12 months from all the research I've done and experience.
Yeah.
It takes hard work and it takes commitment and it takes a year. You can't take a pill and get fixed in a week,
Yeah.
So I'm a real fan of that it takes time. And I think also people smell the genuineness of that as well, rather than me saying, here's a wonder pill or whatever, So I think that's a key element is people get the truth in it. When I say to them, look, you need to sleep more and eat your vegetables, people kind of go, yeah, I know. So there's an element of not trying to sell some load of rubbish, but actually saying, look, I can help you get well, but it's going to take these simple steps that are the things you've been avoiding doing. Yeah. But I can help you do that, So I think genuine, that's been a real success. I think the fact that I walk the talk, and I think the fact that I've had the experience and been there, a lot of people relate to that, and I think there's a lot of people, I get a lot of asthmatics, and I help my mum cure her heart disease, so we get a lot of people with heart disease, and we get a lot of people with low energy and poor skin, things like that. So all the things I've been through, so I think that's a key part of it. And also I think the fact that I have genuinely researched for 25 years, people like that as well, And I'm not sure if there's an element of they kind of like the fact that I'm outside the system, I'm not a doctor or a naturopath or nutritionist.
Relate to you more, are you?
Exactly. I'm just an average Kiwi. I really am. I'm just like everyone else. I just happen to have been sick young, so I had to make changes. And because I did, and I thought it was a curse at the time, I cursed my asthma for years, my skin, and I was like, I hate this. Now I look back and I say, my God, what a blessing.
Beauty of hindsight. Hey?
Beauty of hindsight. Yeah, if I'd known that having what I was and being as sick as I was would lead to this, I wouldn't have moaned, I wouldn't have complained, because it was like, my God, what a fantastic thing to go through in my teens and my 20s, because it taught me about what's important in life, and now in my 40s I'm healthier than in my 20s or 30s, so that's been amazing, because I've got, this great life to look forward to that I'm living, and having the knowledge now to how to live a long, healthy life, rather than stumbling along and taking the drugs and feeling crap all the time.
It would be really interesting to see what would have happened if you weren't sick. Like, where would you be now?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I think I would be awful. I think I'd be awful. I mean, becoming a parent, I've got adult children, so becoming a parent was also a key moment for me in actually becoming a better person, I think I would be a selfish, nasty little asshole, to be honest. I really do, I think parenting knocked a lot of crap out of me, which is really good, because parenting is wonderful, because it makes you realise that if the other person is more important, and you look after them and you dedicate your life to making sure they're good, it actually makes you bigger than your own needs. So parenting is really great in that sense, because it forces you to get out of your own little roundabout. So parenting was really good, but I think if I wasn't sick, the stuff I used to eat, seriously, the stuff I used to eat, I'm so glad. I would have had a heart attack by now, I think, given what I was eating. Just the fried everything and takeaways and soft drinks and alcohol and all the crap that kills you. So it's funny how I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for being sick. And becoming a parent young, I guess.
Yeah. What should people be eating?
Well, a plant-based whole food diet. Bottom line, that's where you start. That's where all the centenarians start. So a plant-based whole food diet, having a nice mixture of raw, sprouted, fermented and cooked food. So a nice mixture of all four. Most of us in New Zealand, we're eating 90% plus cooked food. We just most people don't even know what fermented is. They don't know what sprouts are, and they think it's some kind of weird hippie thing from the 70s, In raw foods, they go, well, what's raw food? Doesn't that make you sick, I was in Sydney. Here's a funny story. I was in Sydney last year, and I was at the airport. It was really early in the morning. All the food court was opening up. I was stuck there at the airport. I had to eat, something before I got on the plane. I was kind of bored. I went over to a place to eat, and it was a Chinese place serving, Chinese chow mein and that kind of food. I love Chinese food. So I said, there was a young guy behind the counter, and I said to him, can I have some of this? They had all this chopped up cabbage and carrot and stuff and onion all sitting there waiting to be fried. And I said, can I have some of that? And he goes, how would you like it cooked? And I said, no, I'll just have it as it is. And he went, no, you can't have that. And I said, why not? He goes, you can't eat raw food. That's what he said to me.
Oh my goodness.
He actually looked me straight in the eyes, like 18-year-old kid, and said, you can't eat raw food, you'll get sick, And I looked at him and said, look, spare me, please. I eat raw food every day, please. And he goes, and he was concerned, because he thought that I might get sick at the airport and he'd get sued or something. It was bizarre. And the whole human race has evolved on raw food. That's the basis of our entire evolution as a species.
Yeah.
You look at all the animals. How many animals do you see sitting around a barbecue cooking their food? None. Right, so we're part of this entire evolution, So it's just ridiculous. So this guy it was really funny. I finally talked him into it, and I sat there and ate it. It was great. It was the only real food in the whole airport, I digress. But what I guess what I'm saying is a mixture of a plant-based whole food diet. So removing the foods that don't have a lot of fibre, like the animal products and things. People eat far too much of that in New Zealand. So I recommend people get off that for a period and get right back into your fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains and legumes. Get the fibre up in your diet. Make sure your fruit is fresh. Try to make as much food as you can. If it's in a box and you have it for breakfast, throw it in the bin. So go through your cupboards and look. Get rid of the sugar. The key things that set most people off is the glutens, which is the glutens in the flour. Coffee, of course, sets a lot of people off. Causes a lot of problems in society. Alcohol, dairy products, and sugar. So if you can literally get yourself off those 5 foods, even if it's for a period of time, and then assess how you feel, most people will be staggered at how good they feel by removing those 5 foods. And you're not going to get nutritional deficiencies. You can get all the calcium you need from your vegetables, and there's a lot of myths about nutrition, and that's another thing on the course that we do, is we really educate you on, look, what is calcium? Where does it come from? How can I get it on one single email, just once? And you go, that's all I need to know about calcium. Oh goodness me, it's a lot simpler than I thought. So there's a lot of myth and marketing in the food industry.
It's Crazy, yeah. I think when you say coffee, I think a lot of people would struggle to give that up. Would you say that? I myself, I love coffee. So.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Look, that's one of the big ones. And I say to people, look, generally what you're not willing to give up, that's the one thing that's got you by the nuggets.
And you need to.
Yeah, you need to, exactly. That's the one thing that's going to keep you sick. You know, like it's an alcoholic is a classic example. And if you look at sugar or coffee, the same way we look at alcohol and alcoholics, they go, look, I can't survive without my alcohol. It dominates my life. I have to have it. And of course, we know the one cause of their problem is alcohol. And yet it completely has them, right?
Yeah.
People don't realise coffee has them. They don't realise sugar has them. Bread has them. You know, dairy products have them. I have a lot of people who say, look, I can't survive without my cheese. And, you know, I talk to them about their health. And they say, I'm on blood pressure, cholesterol lowering, I'm overweight, you know, I've got all these problems with, you know, all these heart issues or whatever, you know, and blood problems. And yet they will not give up the one thing that is just a pile of saturated fat that's going to go straight on their ass, you know. Excuse my French. You know, the very thing that people won't give up is generally what's killing them.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I'm a pretty hard coach in that sense, and I'm pretty straight with people about it. But what I'm interested in is a long, healthy life for people, you know. And so when you're interested in that, you look at things differently.
Definitely.
You don't go, look, you know, should I pander to your coffee addiction? No. Get off it.
Yeah.
You know.
And I also think people don't realise what they can give up, you know, that they can actually live without coffee or without alcohol.
Exactly. Hey, get this, right? Imagine if you're on a plane, right? It's a great, simple exercise to do. Imagine if you're on a plane, right? The plane crashes in the ocean. You survive. You swim to a desert island, right? It's in the tropics, right? It's a desert island, right? You arrive on the island, and there's nothing there but pineapples, coconut, some grasses, tubers, and, you know, maybe some chickens running around and a few eggs or whatever. So there's nothing really on the island but lots of plants, basically. How long would it take you to give up coffee, dairy products, alcohol, drugs, medication, gluten? How long would it take you? It'd be gone, right?
Yeah.
You'd give it up like that, right? Because you've no choice, right?
Exactly.
Now, the only difference between there and here is we somehow think, oh, that's because I'm forced to.
Yeah.
No, you make a choice, right? So you make a choice on that island, you know, you're there, you go, how long will I give up cigarettes? Well, I have to right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you stayed on that island for 6 months and you just ate the natural food on the island, right, and just got into the natural rhythm of how the island operates, right, in 6 months you would be fitter, slimmer, healthier, faster, sharper, younger, with better skin, better digestion. Every part of you would be completely transformed in 6 months living on that island. And then you can come back into current society. Then you could make the choice again by saying, oh, I have to have a coffee, or I've got to have an alcohol, a drink, or I've got to have some gluten or bread or dairy products or sugar or whatever. But notice it's a choice that you make. It's always a choice, you know. So on the island, we think, oh, we'd have to do it because there's no choice. But you can make a choice. I mean, I choose to not drink. I haven't drunk for 26 years. I choose to. It's not a big deal. I don't really care. It's just a choice I make. Like some people choose not to eat brown rice or whatever. That's fine, right? We make our choices.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can choose mental top 2 inches. So with food addiction, and that's where you get gotten. The food addiction gets your brain. So can you give it up? Yes. Are you willing to? You know, that's the question. You know?
Yeah.
But, you know, we can certainly help with that. We help people do that all the time. But it really, when you look at that exercise, it really makes it clear that it is a choice.
Yeah.
You know, it is a choice. And we're in this environment, this obesogenic environment, fat-promoting, sick-promoting environment we live in, where everything around us is sugar, fat, salt and gluten everywhere. You know? So it takes a willingness to change.
Yeah.
You know? And I guess the key thing for me would be, the key moment that happened for me was like, I eat this kind of food, I continue with my asthma and hay fever and sickness. I eat this kind of food, I get well, I don't have asthma, no hay fever, no drugs, no skin problems, really good levels of energy. So when you get to that kind of point where you look at, it's easy to choose. So that's, I guess my mission, or whatever you want to call it, is to educate people to have that choice, and then they can make their own choice.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to force anyone to do anything. I don't care what you eat. You can eat whatever you want. You know, fry your meat every day, have hamburgers and pizzas, and drink yourself into oblivion. It's your choice, you know. But when you have that awareness and education of it is a choice, then you're away. Yeah. That's why I talk about genetic expression. So, you know, because that's what really has people understand that it is a choice, and you make the choice, you know. I made it when I was, 21. You know, some people make it when they're 60, and you still get a good result. So,
yeah.
You know.
Would you say that a key aspect to what you do is public speaking? And is that something you developed over time through your other jobs, or is that something you're born with?
Okay, gotcha. Yes, so the fear of public speaking. No, I had the same thing. I had the absolute fear. I did a whole lot of personal development courses in my early 20s. And one of those was a course where you actually had to pretty much do the whole course as you got further and further into it. It was a company that did lots of different courses. And as you got further into it, you'd be doing all your work and the program and all that up on stage. So when you're bawling your eyes out on stage about some childhood incident or, going through metamorphosis or whatever, when you're doing that on stage, it does get you pretty quickly into a point where you can actually be yourself on stage.
Yeah, it strips away all
the looking good, all the concern about everything,
Yeah, what will they think of me?
Exactly.
I'm crying on stage.
Exactly.
Nothing else matters.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So, me going through that, I did a lot of that kind of work.
Yeah.
It got me into being a very different presenter because now I can present literally exactly as I am.
Yeah.
So I just get up on and I do the presentation just me being myself, just like I am in normal everyday life, like right now.
Yeah.
So that was really good for me. And yes, you have to get over that hump if you want to present. And it's a key part of what we do because people do love to come along. They love to hear a seminar and see what you like and they kind of smell you out, see if they think that you're genuine and all that stuff, as they should.
Because is that how you get a lot of your business, through those seminars?
Yep, absolutely, yeah. It's seminars and word of mouth, pretty much.
Yeah.
They're the two things. And we're getting little bits of press here and there in the media now as well. But word of mouth is one thing. People do the program and they love it so much they tell their community, and we get a whole lot of other people coming wanting to do the program as well. But a lot of those people start by seeing me in a seminar. So absolutely, you are right. Totally, the seminar is key.
Yeah.
And I think I do a new seminar every 6 months. So every 6 months I write a completely brand new one with all the latest information, and I try to have a different angle and a different aspect to it. And that's really good because people love the new information. Like last night I was presenting some things I've never presented before for the first time.
Yeah, I love that how it was so recent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you've got to do that. You've got to keep evolving and updating it because otherwise you're just boring and you say the same old preso, and I do 20 or 30 different presentations, so there's a lot I can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, public speaking, if you're going to do that, you have to get over your stuff. And the only advice I'd give to anyone, apart from whatever personal demons you've got, to deal with, you've got that aspect of it, making yourself comfortable on stage. But the other two things are if you know your stuff and you're well rehearsed. They're two key things with public speaking. If you actually know your information, so that if you get a bit lost and flustered, you can go, right, actually, okay.
I do know what I'm talking about.
I do know what I'm talking about, exactly. So knowing your stuff and being rehearsed, I think is key. And I always rehearse before I present, make sure that it's good. Because I don't want to get up there and waste people's time, People gave me 2 hours of their time, well, probably 2.5, 3 hours last night,
Yeah.
But they give me that much time, so I want to make sure it's valuable.
How do you get comfortable on stage and learn to be yourself?
Well, boy, that's one of the $64,000 question, isn't it?
Is it practice?
Yeah, I think it's practice and also getting to know yourself, and I think getting up and doing it, Some people have, I guess, a natural aptitude for it, they have the show-off gene, maybe I've got the show-off gene, so, there's a sense of that as well.
Yeah.
But also getting over your own fear of failure and your fear of being rejected, and because when you stand up there, you kind of bear it. And, like last night, 257 people all looking at me, expecting me to entertain them for 2 hours,
Exactly, nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to hide, yeah. So I think one thing is realising, one of the tricks I use is that I always expect the audience and the people watching and the people there to be on my side. It's one thing I always remind myself, look, they're actually on my team here and they want this to go well. So people actually don't go along waiting to critique, they actually go along wanting it to go well. They want to have a good night. And the other thing is I always say three things to myself before I present. I go to the bathroom or the toilet and I look in the mirror and I say, be yourself, tell the truth, make a difference. And I always have that at the forefront, So I be myself up there. It always puts me in a relaxed state of mind. Make a difference to people, My commitment is that everyone gets something good and be yourself. Tell the truth, So don't be as people. Yeah, so I always do that, and I've just developed that over years, and that sets me up well. But I think with people, public speaking is, I think, the first or second biggest fear for most human beings, So
yeah, apparently, there's a huge percentage of people that would rather die than get up and talk in public.
Yeah, isn't that extraordinary? What a bizarre thing. I know. And it is just fear of being seen, I guess. Really, at the end of the day, it's fear of being seen, isn't it? Yeah. So if you can get over that. And for me, it took me doing a lot of personal work on myself as to how I see myself in the world and all that stuff, And everyone has their own journey with that. But I think once you can get over your fear of being seen and your fear of being who you are, and you just get up and get on with it. And then it just takes practice. I used to get nervous. I never get nervous now. It doesn't matter whether there's 1,000 people. It just doesn't bother me,
That's awesome.
And that's just through doing it a lot. And also, I think knowing my stuff. You know your information well. You really want to share it. You're passionate. and you take away all the looking good concerns and you just get on with it.
Yeah.
It's easy, you know, and it's easy for me to say. I do get that, you know.
Yeah.
But that's how it's occurred for me.
That's cool. For someone who says maybe wanting to start their own health business,
yes,
what would your advice be to them?
Well, I'd say start researching it and putting it together. So put together a nice program that's going to work for people, and start trialing it on people. You know, what we found was, before we even thought about this as a business, you know, we had people coming to me and working with me and doing stuff, and they were getting these amazing results, you know, weight loss and skin health and all this stuff. So that was actually happening with what I was doing before I even thought about it as a business, as it were. So at the end of the program, I got people to write testimonials, because I didn't think about it at the beginning, but at the end they did.
Social proof.
Yeah, and I've now got, you know, 400 or 500 pages of testimonials. They come in every day, just about. We get testimonials. People going, I can't believe it, I did this, or I tried that, and it's amazing, I feel so good. And so, you know, I can write books with it. And I've got doctors' testimonials and naturopaths and all kinds of people, you know. So I think the first thing would be to put together something and trial it on your community, trial it with people. Because if you can get a result with someone, then you're probably going to get a result with other people, you know. We're quite similar as human beings in terms of, if you get the digestion sorted, most things tend to fall into place. So I think put that together, make sure your research is good, and make sure it's something you want to do. I think that's important, you know, because if you're going to be getting up and presenting and talking to people, it's got to be something that you love doing or you enjoy doing or is genuine. Otherwise, why bother? You know, because there's going to be a million other people chasing up your backside doing it better than you do. So, yeah, I think that would be the key thing. Do your research, put something together that's really good, and make sure it works on your local community, and then get out and start doing it.